The film begins in Ukraine. A Russian general and a Middle Eastern terrorist are making a deal. The Russian hands over a bag with a plutonium core to the terrorist leader, Hassan. The liaison, or middleman, in this deal is JJ, a CIA agent posing as a Russian businessman. JJ asks Hassan who their weapons builder is. Hassan gets suspicious and asks him if he works for the government. Hassan is just bluffing to try and catch JJ in a lie, but JJ does not realize this and confesses that, indeed, he is. Everyone is shocked, and both groups are now pointing their guns at him. A CIA team in Langley is observing everything. JJ's boss, Kim, is worried that his cover is blown, and so are the others, except for a new recruit, Bobby, who believes in him. JJ tells the two groups he may be amateur at being a spy, but he can very well kick their asses. They all laugh, just when he shoots the gas cylinder at the back of the room, and there is a blast. In the ensuing chaos, he manages to escape. The men follow him and try to shoot him, but he manages to take them all down. When he returns to Langley, everyone celebrates him, except his boss Kim, who is very annoyed. He explains to JJ that he was a great soldier and has been a great help to the team, but as an intelligence officer, he lacks the subtlety and the finesse. He explains to him that his job was not merely to stop the deal from happening, but to get information from them, which is impossible now, as he ended them all. The only person who survived, and ran away with the plutonium core, was a terrorist by the name of Azar. He comes home, collects his fish blueberry from the neighbor's place, and goes to sleep. The next day, in Chicago, a little girl wakes up. She gets ready for school. She is talking to herself in the mirror, practicing talking to other girls at school, while her dog listens. She goes out, where her mother is waiting for her to have breakfast. The mother asks her how she is faring at school and reassures her she will make good friends soon. She does not believe her and leaves for school. On the bus, two girls in the front seat take a picture of her, because she has a bit of jam on her cheek. They post it online, even though she asks them not to. She tries to start a conversation with them but is ignored, so she stops, discouraged. At the CIA office, Kim is briefing his team. He says despite the failure of JJ's mission, they have a lead from the NSA. They have heard that Hassan, the terrorist, used to work for a man called Victor Marquez, a former French special ops operator. They believe he has acquired Soviet schematics for a miniaturized nuke. He and his brother used to work together, until his brother, David, tried to hide the nuclear plans from him. So, Victor ended his brother, and is on the run. If he happens to find those plans and sells them to Azar, it will lead to a big problem. He explains their mission is to get to Victor before he can get to the plans. His last known location is Berlin. Kim hands the case to Christina, JJ's colleague, and puts JJ on surveillance duty with Bobby. They have to watch David's wife, Kate, and their daughter Sophie, who moved to the USA after his passing. JJ and Bobby reach Chicago. They set up their equipment in the apartment exactly above Kate and Sophie's. When Kate leaves for work, JJ gets into their apartment, to set up cameras and look around the house. He makes friends with their dog. As he is setting up the cameras, Kate comes back. He hides from her, and is almost caught twice, but manages to evade her. He leaves the house with the dog by mistake, so when Kate opens the door to leave, she is surprised to find the dog waiting outside. JJ is bored by the inactivity of the surveillance assignment, while Bobby is super hyped to be in the field with him. He tells her firmly that they are not partners, she handles the tech, and he handles the action. Bobby tries to get him to teach her how to use a knife but ends up stabbing him instead. In the next apartment, Kate and Sophie come back home. Kate tells Sophie that she has to do an extra shift at the hospital where she works as a nurse, and hence will not be able to take Sophie to the ice skating rink. Sophie is upset, as she was looking forward to ice skating and making new friends. Kate tries to get their neighbor Carlos to take Sophie, but he declines as he is busy. Sophie wakes up the next day and finds an apology note from Kate. She is sitting on the couch when the dog brings out a small toy, which is actually a hidden surveillance camera. Sophie discovers the camera. She does some research on the internet and finds the IP address and Wi-Fi connection that is supporting the camera. On the other side, JJ and Bobby look through the previous night's footage. Sophie catches them unaware, films them in the room, and threatens to post it online. Their cover is blown, and JJ and Bobby try to figure out what to do. JJ says they should throw Sophie down the stairs and make it look like an accident, while Bobby stares at him, dumbfounded. Sophie overhears it and tells them she is right there, recording everything. JJ says he was only joking, and she makes a deal with him. As a part of that deal, JJ has to take her to the ice skating rink. At the ice rink, JJ can barely manage to stand. Sophie tries to make friends with the girls from her school who are at the rink. They ignore her and start playing with the other kids from school. Two boys push Sophie and try to bully her. JJ sees that, and as they pass him, he puts his leg out to make them fall. JJ and Sophie get thrown out of the rink. As they walk home, Sophie blackmails JJ into getting an ice cream. They bond over the ice cream, and Sophie makes him a pinky promise to hide his identity from her mom. Just then, the elevator door opens, and they see Kate with Carlos and T, his partner. They are looking for Sophie. Kate spots Sophie holding pinkies with JJ, rushes over to them and knees him. Sophie explains to her that JJ is a neighbor. She makes up a story that JJ saw her being pushed by the boys from school and came down to help. She tells her he got her an ice cream, and Kate apologizes. The next day, JJ is out jogging when Carlos and T join him. They ask about his personal life and welcome him to the neighborhood. Later in the day, Sophie notices JJ coming back from the market. Her mother is fixing a leak in the kitchen, so she calls JJ to help. JJ goes to their house to help, and Sophie asks her mother to invite him for dinner. Put on the spot, neither JJ nor Kate can disagree. While having dinner, JJ talks about drinking urine while serving in Afghanistan. Kate and Sophie are shocked. JJ apologizes and explains he has not been around civilians much. Sophie takes advantage of the situation and tells her mom that JJ can accompany her to the school, parents and special friends day, as Kate is unable to. Both Kate and JJ are reluctant at first, but she emotionally blackmails them into it. JJ complains to Bobby that Sophie is worse than terrorists. At the school, JJ feels out of place. Sophie holds his hand and takes him with her. As all the other parents and special friends speak about their profession, Sophie sits quietly. But the teacher calls her up and asks her about JJ. JJ gets up in front of the class and tells everyone that he is not working currently, but his previous occupation was dealing with garbage. Some students make fun of him and judge Sophie for bringing him. This annoys JJ, and he reveals he is a former Special Forces Ranger and has been working to protect the USA, and that by garbage, he meant human trash. The student and parents are impressed, and they clap for him. JJ gets roped into playing with the children and is cornered by some of the female parents into showing off his tattoos. Sophie's teacher gives him her number, but Sophie warns him of a conflict of interest and makes him rip up the paper. Kate joins them and is happy to see Sophie making new friends. She thanks JJ. In Paris, Victor is keeping an eye on Christine. The next day, Sophie interrupts JJ's run. He tells her they are done, and to leave him alone. But Sophie relentlessly engages him in conversation and gets him to reveal his life. He tells her he got shot in his last mission, and his fiancée left him. Surprised at himself, he walks away, but Sophie tells him to teach her to be a spy. She baits him by calling Bobby the brains and him, the brawn of the operation. JJ relents and agrees to teach her, out of pride. Sophie's training begins. JJ teaches her to cheat at a lie detector. Next, he gives her the assignment to go into a random apartment building, enter anyone's home, and come out on the balcony so JJ can see her. Sophie manages to do it in 5 minutes. JJ and Bobby are impressed, as Sophie easily masters the lie detector. Sophie and JJ start hanging out together. He teaches her plenty of cool stuff, like walking away from an explosion, only in their case it is a bunch of fireworks. Bobby gets jealous, because JJ never taught her anything. They have an argument where she tells him they are partners, but he denies it. In Paris, Victor goes to his lawyer's office. Carl, the lawyer, is shocked to see him. Victor asks him if David told him where he hid the plans. Carl denies any knowledge of the location of the plans, except that David told him he left them to his best friend. Carl says he does not know the identity of the friend. Victor tells him and proceeds to stab Carl. Sophie texts JJ with an SOS message. JJ rushes to her, only to find she tricked him into coming for her art show. Sophie is trying to set him up with her mom. At the art show, JJ criticizes a little girl's painting and makes her cry. As they walk back, Kate and JJ talk. Kate tells him how Sophie is still struggling with her father's passing. She also tells him she herself is still not sure what to do. JJ tells her he is in a similar spot. Later, Kate asks JJ out for a date later that week. Back at his apartment, Bobby finds out about his date. She questions him about compromising their mission. JJ gets angry and tells her there is no mission, only a broken family. She tells him she knows about his last assignment and how he lost his entire team. They argue, and JJ leaves. 2 days later, JJ is about to take Kate for dinner when Carlos and T call him to their home for a chat. Carlos asks JJ about his intentions. All under the guise of being a spokesperson for T, because T does not utter a word, ever. While JJ and Kate enjoy their date, Sophie and Bobby keep an eye on them. Back at home, JJ and Sophie discuss their scars on a video call. Sophie asks JJ whether her father was a bad guy. JJ tells her he made some bad decisions, but he also made her, so he could not have been completely bad. He helps her do her homework. Kate calls him to tell him to keep an eye on Sophie, as she has to do an extra shift at the hospital. He tells her not to worry. Kate comes home to find JJ and Sophie making dinner. In Berlin, Christine is keeping an eye on Victor as he meets Azar. Kim and the team are also there. They corner them, and Victor blows up the whole place. Back in Langley, Kim calls JJ and Bobby to let them know the mission is over and they can stop the surveillance. He also fires them for breaking protocol and compromising the mission. JJ tries to take all the blame, but Kim does not listen. As JJ and Bobby get back to Chicago to clear out their stuff, JJ apologizes to Bobby. She tells him she is not angry, because she was happily watching him become human. JJ goes to meet Kate and Sophie before he leaves. He tells Kate the truth, and she is very upset. More when she realizes Sophie already knew about it. Kate asks JJ to leave them alone. JJ tells Bobby that she was right and he made a big mistake. Sophie comes to visit him and gives him a drawing of the two of them together, having a tea party. JJ walks her back to the apartment. As he is about to leave, he hears Sophie exclaim. He goes back and enters the flat. Bobby is about to disconnect the camera when she sees JJ getting knocked down by Victor's men. Victor holds them hostage. He reveals that Ozzy, the dog, was David's best friend. He removes his collar and finds a flash drive. In the other apartment, Bobby panics and then opens JJ's gun case. Victor takes the data from the flash drive and puts it into a metal case. Just then, Carlos and T walk into Kate's apartment with food. Kate and JJ try to send them back, but they use the food trays to hurt Victor and his goons. They say they are independent contractors, who were trying to get the drive too. They ask JJ to hand it over. Bobby, meanwhile, is trying to come downstairs with the gun, but it slips from her hands and goes off, shooting through the wall. The bullets hit Victor's men, and everybody tries to find cover. Victor grabs Sophie and manages to get out, but JJ follows him. Bobby holds off T and Carlos. Bobby drops grenades at Carlos and T's feet. Victor leaves with Sophie, with JJ still in pursuit. Kate drives up in her car, he gets in, and they follow Victor. Victor has a getaway plane ready, he takes Sophie on board with him. JJ and Kate reach it. Kate tries to drive through the locked gates but only ends up making a dent in the metal. JJ climbs up the gate, just as the plane starts going down the runway. JJ takes a fuel truck and parks it in the middle of the runway to stop the plane. Victor gets off and starts shooting at JJ. He and JJ fight, but the plane keeps running and crashes into the fence. JJ gets Sophie out of the plane, but Victor holds them at gunpoint and takes the flash drive case. Sophie signals to JJ and throws the case to Victor. He tries to shoot them, but Kate hits him with a rod. He falls down, and JJ connects him to the plane as it falls down the ditch, taking Victor along with it. Sophie hands JJ the drive. She had pocketed it before handing over the case. They start to leave as the fuel tank is about to explode. Sophie stops and requests JJ to do something as her mother watches, confused. They do the cool walk, but the tank does not explode. Sophie is disappointed, so JJ takes a handheld grenade and throws it behind them, so it explodes as they do the cool walk. Back at the Langley office, Kim tells Bobby and JJ that they have been reinstated. He asks them to pick their choice assignment. JJ says he wants to do something domestically, and Kim suggests Chicago, as Kate and Sophie are there. JJ agrees but says he needs to check with his partner and looks at Bobby. Bobby happily agrees. Back in Chicago, JJ, Kate, and Sophie are together enjoying the ice rink. JJ starts dancing, and Sophie is embarrassed at first, but then she joins in, as do the other skaters.